Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The feature race at Santa Anita on Sunday is race number 8. We're going 1 mile. It's the Comma to the Top Stakes. It's a race and it's a card that you can bet with a DRF Bets account. Sign up, receive a 300% deposit match at bets.drf.com. Here's the field for the Comma to the Top. We've got the last 2 winners of the Shared Belief Stakes in the Comma to the Top, and one of those Shared Belief winners, Battle of Midway, went on last year to win the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Are you surprised that morning line favorite Battle of Midway is not pre-entered in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, considering that field, if you don't believe in Catalina Cruiser and City of Light, really hasn't come up the strongest?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not terribly surprised that they didn't go there. And to be honest, I think it's the correct move not to go there as well, just because, look, we all know the situation with Battle of Midway. Went off to be a sire, had some issues, come back, they put him back in training. Never an easy thing for any horse to overcome. The Pat O'Brien, you give him the benefit of the doubt, got his face ripped off by Catalina Cruiser, but he needed a race. I'm going to, obviously not hold that against him. The Kelso, to me, was a very disappointing effort, and I feel like that was sort of not the aha moment for Hollendorfer and company, but I feel like that was the moment that really at least could have put a little bit of doubt in the back of your mind, saying he's not ready to go, even if you think the Dirt Mile could possibly be one of the easiest races on the Breeders' Cup weekend.
I think you can look at Battle of Midway one of 2 ways. One is that he had a taste of the good life, so to speak, and maybe he just doesn't want to be a racehorse anymore. 2, he's got excuses. You mentioned the Catalina Cruiser, who is going to be the favorite, it looks like, in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He caught that horse off a long layoff in a sprint race. And then in the Kelso, if you want to make the argument that I wish Flavian was a little more aggressive coming out of the gate and just taking the lead. It looked like he had a shot to take the lead from pattern recognition. That pace was very, very slow. He decided to rake behind those 2 horses, and when they quickened away, Battle of Midway just couldn't stay with them. And I also wonder if he doesn't like a 1-turn mile. I think he might be a 2-turn kind of horse. He's getting back to Santa Anita here. This is a big race, I think, in determining Battle of Midway's future. And I have to be honest, with all the questions swirling around him, I'm not sure I want him at a very short price. Now, the second choice on the morning line, a horse that might end up favorite, is the number 1 Tatters to Riches. And Tatters to Riches has run one bad race in his life. It was the Del Mar Futurity, where he was 9-2 against the very good Bolt d'Oro, and then he went away. So something must have happened to him physically in that race. Other than that, this $1 million purchase has looked good on the track. Loved the way he won the Shared Belief last time out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I feel like this could be a horse that turns into a serious player as a 4-year-old if he stays healthy, and really that's been sort of the knock for him thus far in his career. You brought up after that Futurity, back as a 2-year-old, missed a ton of time, and you can't overlook the fact that after that Shared Belief, they were going to go to the Oklahoma Derby, and he had a little bit of a hiccup and they couldn't go on there. So this was not the goal, the Comma to the Top. They were going to go to a graded stakes race. They had to punt on that and show up here. I still think the combination of the upside, he's so lightly raced, and what he's already shown out on the racetrack with that pedigree, to me, I'm very, very interested in him, not just on Sunday, but going forward. I think he could be a nice 4-year-old.
Really nice versatility as well. He can win from on the lead. He can win from well off of the pace. You mentioned, though, he missed the Oklahoma Derby, missed about 3 weeks worth of training, and this is also going to be his first start outside of Del Mar. We'll see how he handles Santa Anita, but I agree with you. This horse has a good amount of upside and is a pretty exciting prospect for a late developing 3-year-old. Let's talk about Roman Rosso. Talk about a horse that got thrown to the wolves in his North American debut. I mean, this horse I know did some good things in Argentina and Uruguay. They ran him in the Pacific Classic. He was 6-1 against Accelerate, showed some speed, backed up. This is a more appropriate spot.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I kind of feel like, as far as the wagering is concerned in that P Classic, it kind of felt like if you weren't sold on Pavel and you weren't sold on Prime Attraction or any of the other ones, kind of by default, the alternative to Accelerate would have been a horse like Roman Rosso, who was unexposed here and who knows what he could turn into. The reason I have zero interest in him in this race, it has nothing to do with his potential ability. Bob Baffert said all along, leading into the Pacific Classic, he goes, he's probably a 1.5-mile horse. Well, now we're running at a flat mile at Santa Anita. I understand he showed that speed going 1.25 miles. I don't know what version of this horse you're going to get. Is this really what he wants to do, or is he going to be more of sort of that long-winded, longer distance type?
And while he showed speed last time out, again, that was at a longer distance, and I don't think he's going to be able to make the lead in here with St. Joe Bay next door. We have a positive formulator fact for St. Joe Bay, who has been rejuvenated at the age of 6 after being claimed by John Sadler. Over the past year, with older dirt horses making their second start off a layoff and stretching out from sprint to route, we've got 33% wins, a 435 ROI. Off the claim, this horse ran really well at 42-1 against American Anthem. I thought he ran better than it looks in the Bing Crosby, where he was just dueling on a wicked pace before tiring behind Ransom the Moon and Roy H. No, certainly nothing to be ashamed of there. Last time out, I think 5 furlongs a little short at Los Al. And I like him stretching out. Maybe at this point, a mile's a little long, but he's done it in the past. Timeform US believes there's going to be a red bar. I'm not sure about that. I think Roman Rosso lets St. Joe Bay go, figuring he may not stay the distance. This horse has a bit of a mild upset potential.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is what you touched on briefly. Just at this point, as a 6-year-old, I'm not totally convinced that not only a mile, but a 2-turn mile. If this was a 1-turn mile, sort of an elongated sprint, perhaps I'd like him a little bit more. 2 turns at a mile, I'm not totally convinced that this is his game at this point. I think 6 or 7 furlongs is his bread and butter. But if you think there's a scenario where he's just simply faster than Roman Rosso early on and he can somehow clear off to an easy lead, then he's certainly very interesting. Especially, again, keep in mind, speed always does very well at a flat mile at Santa Anita.
You mentioned that Roman Rosso might be a longer distance horse. Curlin Road won the Cougar to the second handicap in 2017 at 12 furlongs, and then he ran into Collected and Arrogate in the Pacific Classic, and all things considered, he ran quite well to only be beaten 10 lengths behind those two in the form that they were in. Doug O'Neill hasn't been shy running this horse in 2 starts off a long layoff this year. He ran him in the Big Cap on a wet track in his first start off a tremendous layoff. Then he ran him in the Californian against informed Dr. Dorr, who came back to run second in the Gold Cup with a 105, and the Lieutenant, who came back to win the All-American at Golden Gate with a 100 before finishing second in the Suburban. Curlin Road has just been overmatched in his last 2 races. If you can somehow throw those 2 races out and go back to the P Classic, he has a puncher's chance as the longest shot on the board.
I guess he does from a figure standpoint, but I think, like you had said, if you can excuse the past 2 and go back to the P Classic, but it's not the P Classic of 2018, it's the P Classic of 2017. This horse, the 2 races he's run, he's been overmatched, no question, but he hasn't picked his feet up. I don't know if he can still run, and even if he can, I don't think a mile is what he wants. I think he's a mile and an eighth, mile and a quarter, mile and a half type. To me, there's just not a lot there for me to be super enticed with.
All Out Blitz scored at a mile last time out at Los Alamitos in pace-pressing fashion. Again, I don't think he has the speed to stay with St. Joe Bay early, and his 2 wins have come when he's been very close to the pace. Also, you have to ask some class questions.
Yeah, at this point, he needs to prove that he actually can stack up against Stakes Caliber Company. I know he ran well enough in the Sham. I'm not going to hold that one against McKenzie against him. I think there's an interesting thing to think about with this horse as well as Tatters to Riches. They're both 3-year-olds. You still have one more big grade 1 toward the end of the year at Santa Anita, and I know you've got 2 months between this race and then, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if you saw either one of these or both of these horses end up in the Malibu on opening day out at Santa Anita, day after Christmas.
9-time winner Very, Very Stella completes this field. Scored last time out at the mile at Los Al, but it was in for a $32,000 tag with an 88 buyer speed figure. Let's just say it's a lot of work to do from a class and fig standpoint.
Yeah, blue-collar racehorse, goes out there, tries each and every time, just seems a little bit overmatched here.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Comma to the Top Stakes. DRF Bets Sunday race of the day. You're going with Tatters to Riches. You believe in this horse, and listen, looking at his overall form, looking at his recent figures, looking at the way he won the shared belief, I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, you know what? I thought he was going to win the Oklahoma Derby if they had gotten there. I thought he was just better than those horses going into it, and unfortunately, obviously, that little physical issue. Now, look, that's really kind of the big question. Is he ready to go off this with only 3 workouts since that little time that he missed? I think just from a talent standpoint and from the fact that he is so lightly raced, I think there's another forward move in there. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets up to 100 buyer. And also, factoring in, you're right, he may end up being the favorite come post time. But the horse that's going to take the other lot of money, I don't have any interest in Battle of Midway. So To me, Tatters to Riches, he's the one for me in this spot.
I'm hoping Drayden Van Dyke just put St. Joe Bay on a send. It's been a while since he's routed, but he's done it successfully in the past. I'm not interested in his last race. Too short at Los Al. That loss doesn't really bother me, and it's not like he was embarrassed anyway. His prior 2 starts off the Sadler claim are good, and again, as the formulator fact shows, Sadler does this. Second off the layoff, after a sprint prep, he scores. I'm hoping St. Joe Bay can take these a long way in the Comet to the Top. I'm going 4-1-7-5. Give me numbers.
Yeah, I'm going 1-4.
It's a fun race, the Sunday feature race, the Comet to the Top, featuring a 2017 Breeders' Cup winner. That is Battle of Midway. You can bet it with a DRF Bets account. Sign up, grab that 300% deposit match at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time for the Comet to the Top is 4:14 Pacific. Best of luck.